Today we will see how social sciences are completely structural in a society, even if people don't understand that, even if the common man doesn't value that. However, there are three main parts in social sciences that must be understood by everyone. I would say by everyone. One is the essential layer of anthropology. The social scientist that doesn't understand this, I don't think he can never call himself a social scientist. And for the general public to understand this is very important. This is the layer of institutions. The problem nowadays is that there are no longer institutions. The capitalist society abolished almost everyone. So the last bastion was universities, some hospitals, public hospitals, connected to maternity, something like that, all wiped out because the profit has to be there to pay salaries. So same logic applies. And we see distortions everywhere. Distortions everywhere because there are no institutions anymore. What we have now are men and women of high profile that the institutions, they call themselves institutions but are not, are only companies, businesses. The men and women, as I was telling you, of high profile that do not let themselves corrupt in the systems of profit, turn themselves into institutions. So we have Noam Chomsky in linguistics, Carl Jung in psychology, Anthony Tapias, Joseph Beuys in visual arts, and the big names are from the past, because right now, as I told you, it would be very useful to have institutions, but they are not there. The systems of profit infected everything. So the first thing we have to know, to have understand, is the crucial layer of anthropology. And anthropology is allowed in societies by institutions that go a long way from the past. They carry out generations, are not there. This is a structural problem that we face, everyone. So we have to keep in mind this. The profit logical of the society, of the capitalist society, abolished institutions. The last one was a university, where there was still an academic form of ideas, of research, is not there. So this is a very, very, very big problem. And then the lack of institutions export to the individual, the common man, and the families through educational system that is not there anymore. Educational system is the system that allows people, in theory, to have a profession in the end of the system. But many times the connection to the practical activities or to the profession, to the finding the vocation, also is not there. The professor, the teacher, does not seek that, does not offer that from the beginning to the families. So, society of capitalist logical exports to the family the problem. The problem is their sons and daughters. They seem to be a problem because they have to generate profit. Um, and the family doesn't know what to do. So they export to the educational system that is more or less also not working the right way. The problem that seems the problem, the individual, the human being, seems to be the problem of this society because it has to generate a profit to sustain himself through a salary, through his time in the job. So what happens is complicated because educational system doesn't find schools and university many times don't find the clear vocation to the student. They are not there to find the vocation. But how do you have a profession years from now if you don't have a clear vocation found in this student? So we have distortions of lack of institutions, anthropological problem, exported to society through the family and the educational system that doesn't do what should be doing. And then where does the problem occur clearly? Of course, in the individual. But the problem is not the individual. The problem is the basis, the lack of institutions, anthropological problem, exported to society, sociological problem. But the effect, the cause is this, of course, a structural problem of organization, of economical organization of society that should be organized in terms of values, of what is important, of valuing this in terms of valuing this lower or higher. The scale of values is not there, is always the money. And of course, there are multiple neuroses that, according to the anti-psychiatrist movement, is something that does not exist. The individual problem, the neurosis, the psychosis, the schizophrenia, call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. In biological terms, in biochemical terms, inside our minds, there is not such a thing as the mind problem, the mental health issue. Is a mental health issue now because it's a global problem, as I explained to you. So many of us have deep depressions. I call it depressions. I think it's continue to be the best way to define it. We have a global problem nowadays in our societies of global problem of individual depressions. That the individuals try to cope in the daily basis. Many times the effects only occur in decades time or some years time. And by that time, when the mental health issue is very serious, is no one's problem, it's no one's business, no one knows the cause. So this is just a lack of responsibility, of the lack of organization of society that has a clear and big effect on our well-being as individuals. In this, I will try to be short course. I'm a sociologist, Francisco Capello, from Lisboa, Portugal, and I will try to explain to you in simple terms, but as a broad